And let's take a look back at the weekend that was, and let's look into what we learned this past weekend. Matt, we'll start with you. What did you learn this past weekend?
I learned that college football is just absolutely drunk this year. It's they finally opened it up to 12 teams, and we thought that there might be 12 clear teams by the time we got to playoff formation. We might be arguing about
insane
16 that have a legitimate argument to make it in. Unfortunately, Florida State, not one of those teams.
Florida State Seminole Vesicles?
Close, yeah. But college football, like every week, it's like, okay, well now, maybe these teams are starting to figure it out, and we're starting to make a clear picture over here, and then it's just like, nope, you still don't have anything. You still don't have anything figured out. And we're
not even that heavy, like hard liquor drunk either. It's like freaking Valley Girl White Claw drunk. It's just sloppy as hell.
Yeah.
Right. Just it's a sloppy, it's a mess.
I couldn't tell you if it was on this show or if it was just like talking with people like when they were expanding it. It may have just been on the phone with you, Jim. I just talking about when they were expanding the playoff and how like, oh, is it going to fix everything? I'm like, every year you can go down to number 8, you can go down to number 12, you can go down to number 16. There's debate there. I mean, obviously it's going to eliminate like, well, if you didn't want to be in this conversation, you should have been in the top 5, you have less, argument in your fight, but it's going to get entertaining, and there's going to be a lot of teams vying for that 8 to 12 slot. There's going to be a lot of sloppy teams. There's going to be some hot teams at the end of the year that might push in here. So, it's going to be a sprint to the finish for them.
Yeah, sure is. And these conference games are going to become a lot more important. Your matchups when you're in that 20 to 10 range are going to become very important, even more important as we come down the stretch. Again, like even though there's a bigger field, that situation of not only who you lose to, but when you lose is still going to be a vital piece to the puzzle, because, you can hopefully recover from a terrible loss in September, but can you recover from a decent loss, mediocre loss, whatever, a better loss, a good loss in late October, early November, like that, you know what I mean? So like that's going to be the questions. We're 2 weeks away from the first college football playoff ranking. Everything we do, and again, we're going to go through the what the playoff would look like this week. We're going to go through that exercise again. We're 2 weeks out from the actual first rankings, and then we're going to see what does this committee do, because we're playing like fantasy ball right now still, and until we actually see what the committee does. Again, you're locked into the Power Four, a group of 5, then there's the at-larges, and those 7 teams are the big unknown, and we have we have a little bit of an idea maybe what they're going to do with those, but we won't know for sure.
Well, Jim, not as much as the big unknown as those people outside those 6 or 7 teams or whatever you're calling it too, as Vanderbilt continues to creep up, baby.
They're sneaking in. They are one of a bunch of teams with only one SEC loss, which is pretty wild.
And hey, if all of those teams lose 5 games and Florida State wins out,
no,
they'd still be looking in. They'd still
they're still.
Oh man,
they still are not good.
It's a fun storyline.
What great, Bob?
Thing sucks.
All right, Sean, what did you learn this past weekend?
What did I learn? Well, let me just throw some numbers out here for you. I gotta pull it up here. I had some numbers on the ready. I'm going to throw 4 numbers out for you. The numbers are 62, 61, 43, and 47. And no, those are not my scores on my last 4 front nines at Congo River Mini Golf. Those are.
But those were also your last 4 scores in the front 9.
It just conveniently is close to my usual front 9 at the.
Just not just those
level.
Yeah,
that's what I'm happy with.
Those 4 numbers are the positive point differential for the NFC North on their schedule through the current games, and I am going to put my foot in my mouth a little bit here. I was very adamant that the Lions would have no trouble with the NFC North, that the Lions would run away, and that there was no other talent in the NFC North, at least from what I saw on paper. And I was wrong. The NFC North, I learned, is legit. It is here to fight. You have that Lions Vikings game was arguably the best game of the weekend, which, even though falling short, sold a lot of America on the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings showed that they are a legitimate team. I think the Packers, who are still winning games, and let's not forget the one team that didn't play is a Bears team whose offense has seemed to gotten wheels under them. They've won 3 in a row, and if they had 11 more points in the 2 games before that, would have 6 in a row. But the offense was sputtering at that point, so I'm not going to fight for those two very much. But I'm not saying the Bears are going to challenge the Lions. That's not what I'm saying. But my point is, this is going to be a dogfight the rest of the way, and you're probably going to see 2, maybe 3 of these teams when the season's done and we roll into the playoffs. So I'm buying the NFC North officially as an entire division for the first time all year.
Yeah, I think the NFC North is arguably the best. We got a question here in the comments: AFC North or NFC North? Who's better?
Good question, Yvonne.
Today, you have to say, at least for the moment, that the NFC North is in the conversation more than they ever have been. I'm not going to go sell out directly, and I'm sure there'll be more on that later during tool time. But can we please acknowledge that the Lions did an awful lot to hand the Vikings the game, and then also pulled the fire alarm in the orphanage where the fire was burning that they started to save the day? Can we please remember that that's a thing that happened?
Oh, absolutely. The Lions tried their best, and the Lions showed that when push comes to shove, I think a lot like the overtime drive a few weeks ago, where they went, let's just play football the way we play. Let's stop trying to overthink it. I think both of those scenarios are ones where, like, it shows that that coaching staff, when push comes to shove and remembers what they are, can push around anybody there. But for me, it was the Vikings capitalizing on those opportunities, and the Vikings hanging in there. I mean, if a team's going to hand it to you and you can't do anything with it, it doesn't matter. And I think going into the season, I thought the Vikings were that.
Well, yeah,
I would have put the Vikings there, especially with Sam Darnold at the helm.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that's a bad point either. Where I feel compelled to mention something goes back to points I've made in the past on this show, and then getting refuted with other comebacks in the form of the Vikings have a history of letting teams back in games, and it bit them here. Okay.
Yeah.
Ironically, I know people didn't love what Jordan did in his first game back, but they still nearly came back to win that football game. And luck this time did not go the way of the Vikings. So again, not here to say that the Vikings are bad, but or that the NFC North isn't absolutely better than it's been in the past, because they've been a laughing stock. If I'm Justin Fields, I am somewhat bitter of how much they went to coddle Caleb Williams and not him. Separate conversation. I get it.
Sure.
Caleb Williams, in the style that Cam Newton did it for Rich Rodriguez, may have saved Eberflus's job in Chicago. Okay. As much as we accuse quarterbacks of getting people fired, let's acknowledge it when the opposite happens, right? But the main point I like about the main thing I like about your point is that you're buying the division on the whole. And for that right now, you can't, there's no argument for that. I'm pumping the brakes a bit on the Vikings as the careful buyer here.
I don't think the Vikings will finish as the 2 in that division. I think the Packers will innately catch them. I didn't expect it to be this tight. And as for Ivan's question down there, because of everything I just said, I think that the NFC North has the best team out of the 8 between the NFC and the AFC. I think the Lions edge out the Ravens for me, and they don't have the worst, which is the Browns. More on that later. So I think when you factor in having the best and not having the Browns, I don't think it's a question that right now the NFC North is the better division. I mean Steelers and Ravens is very great, and I think the Bengals are looking to maybe make a push here, at least with their offense, so they may win some games, but the Browns are just going to drag that division down.
I mean,
I think the Bengals. Oh, real quick, Jim. So I'll finish.
And then I'll let these other guys talk about.
Yeah, I think for me, the Bengals' existence is what decides it for the North, or for the NFC, rather than the Browns. Because though the Browns are obviously a good point, I'm not taking that, Sean. But you have three viable teams. I don't think anybody outside of one particular person, and I don't even think he thinks so. No offense, Byrne. At this point, thinks that anything short of some sort of deal with a deity or demonic entity will make the Bengals a competitive team for the division crown in the AFC North. Whereas, as you said, Sean, all three of those teams in the Packers, Vikings, and Lions have a shot to win that division.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think it's a question of is the NFC North or the AFC North better. My question would be, what division is better than the NFC North right now? Because I personally don't have one.
The only one who would compete is the AFC North. I mean, the question's well posed in that way.
Yeah, like to me right now, the NFC North is the number one division of football. You want to, we can have debates, and we'll get there with the power rankings of what teams are better. But I don't think as a 4-team unit, I don't think there's a better one in football right now than the NFC North.
And speaking of power rankings and tool time,
Ernest DJ Christian, welcome to the show.
Good evening, gents. How you guys doing?
You're trying to conserve the van battery or whatever. It's like
we're on electric now. So.
I mean, he just drove through the hole he made in the wall last time he drove his sorry ass in late. So you know,
a lot of body work. You know, I'm saying, hey, Sean, welcome back, buddy.
Oh,
we
damn,
missed you.
Something.
Can you please get rid of that jersey though, please? Deshaun Jackson gave me nightmares for years.
Easy
Please.
I don't know.
God damn it.
Can I ask a question to the basketball expert over there?
Allegedly.
Jim? Go ahead.
Allegedly.
No, you. New York Knicks season over?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just making sure. Getting
Also-
whacked on opening night.
Also, breaking news on Nursery Podcast today. Kyle, Nursery Podcast today. Where's the
He's not giving you the ding.
God damn it.
Waiting. Breaking news.
Sixers season over as well, too. We announced it today on the show. Sixers season already over.
Don't do math.
Sorry, Matt.
Said that like
You guys
3
done?
weeks ago.
I already made the Joel Embiid not playing back-to-backs joke before you got here.
Season over. Yeah, bad.
yeah.
bad.
No, I did say that on.
Game over.
I did
Wait a
say
sec.
on Ernest speaking.
Wait a second. Is this a political show now?
What do you mean?
Jim, what do you ooh.
What do you mean?
Harris Walls on one side, stop Trump the other side.
I don't see anything.
Yeah, it's just,
It's not a
my
political
background.
show,
Political
EJ.
show. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
My background.
Back off, buddy.
I like it. I love it. I love it.
I mean, why
Don't
would
be rude. Don't be rude.
Jeremy checking in with us.
I mean,
Ding bong, ding bong bong.
why would
all
he
right.
stop being a donkey now? That's my question.
I don't know.
Student of the game, Kyle Nash. What did you learn this past weekend?
Boy, oh boy, can you please not disrespect the diagnosis of Dr. Foreman? Okay. All you fools on this show, golly jeepers, I don't know why you would start Russell Carrington Wilson, even though I probably didn't say Carrington because I don't respect Rusty like that. I have no idea why he would be starting. And this is less about me making fun of other people and more me tooting my horn about it going exactly the way I said that it might go. On this show, as a matter of fact, last week. Listen, it's just as simple as Russell Carrington Wilson gives that Steelers offense more options than Justin Fields does. And I still
Did he?
what's that?
Did he though?
Aerial wise, 100%. Now I know he started bad, obviously, but he needed to knock some rust off. He's old. Okay. So, but you know, has Justin Fields had a passing night like that where he looked as comfortable doing it? I don't think so. Am I here to say that the Steelers are now the Super Bowl favorite? No, of course not. But that game went about as it could have gone, or should be expected to be gone from a defensive standpoint against the hapless Jets, which, you know, if you could please cue up Lucifer Morningstar when it comes to the Jets and all the people who yes, there.
I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen.
Try to tell you they wouldn't make the playoffs, but yeah. So Well, it's not just about you there, kiddo. If I were talking about the Browns, then it would be just about you.
Sorry,
But
Can I provide a stat that'll help you in your Russell Wilson argument?
go for it, brother.
So next gen stat, it was one of my favorite things. I actually had a screenshot of it in case it came up at any point. Russell Wilson under center. He went under center for 41 of 66 snaps, which is the highest in a game since 2016. But the stat that Russell proves that shows what you're trying to say, I think, and at least that was baffling to me. Russell Wilson in play action was 8 of 9 for 150 yards on under center play action dropbacks, which is the most by a Steelers quarterback since 2016. And it's something that they've been unable to do to push defenses back and confuse defenses under Fields. And I think that type of statistic is the kind of thing. Wilson isn't the Wilson we remember from Seattle. He's definitely aging. He's going to have, but what he's going to do, and he's the reason why I traded for Pickens in 3 different fantasy leagues in the last 2 weeks, knowing this move was coming, is he's going to get those guys separation. He's going to get the matchups that will help.
And it will improve Najee Harris's game by extension.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Think about it, guys. Though, I didn't watch enough Broncos football to know who the play action running threat was there. But as he had a legitimate play action threat since
the Denver Broncos.
Since Skittles, Marshawn
Lynch.
I mean, maybe Thomas Rawls, maybe Carson. I don't know. But we all do, or at least I remember in 2017 where he was gypped out of MVP votes just because the team was bad. I shouldn't say the team was bad. It was because in week 17 they missed the playoffs. They were a playoff competitive team. I don't want to say bad, where he was obviously the top passer and the top rusher for the team, but we handed it to somebody else. So I don't know. The thing I love about that stat that you point out, Sean, is I don't know the last time he would have had the opportunity to be effective in play action.
I mean, shout out to Russell Wilson for winning preseason game number 1 against the Jets defense that was absolutely abysmal. He gets a second tune-up against another abysmal New York team in the Giants this week before he runs into a real slate.
Okay, that's cute, Mike, but for all the doubt and how inevitable he was supposed to fail, that's just you can't have it both ways argument, buddy. And I'm not here to tell you you're wrong about the fact that they weren't 100%, but the doubt permeated not just this panel, but the nation. And you just had to question Omar Epps once again.
I'm more referencing the fact that we're sitting here giving him like these praises of that he beat, I don't know, Baltimore or Kansas City, who he has on the docket later this season.
And that was when he will be tested. Nobody's saying.
And this is what I'm saying. Congratulations on winning your preseason game. You get another tune-up game against the Giants before you really run into the stretch of the season where the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to need him.
There was less there was less snark when you said it that way.
You didn't let me finish.
That's kind of true.
I mean, it's fair. You did not let him get his whole point out.
I mean,
here's the thing. Go ahead, Mike. Before
he gets the Jets, he gets the Giants, then he has the Commanders on the road, and then Baltimore. So if he has 2 tune-up games against inferior defenses and teams that are dealing with defensive injuries to get him comfortable running the offense that the Steelers are asking him to run, it's a step in the right direction. But the 4 or 5 weeks post Giants game will be is Russell Wilson a difference maker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or is it just either quarterback really could do okay because the defense is good and is going to keep them in games, and the offense going through Najee Harris is what they're going to have to do?
By the way, congratulations once again on proving Mike Tomlin's plan being smart in doing it when he did it, because he gave him 2 tune-up games.
Also,
absolutely.
Also, are we calling the Jets defense like bad? Because prior to this week, they were really good.
As an answer, EJ, he said they were hurt. Sauce Gardner was injured going into that game. Not having your top corner matters.
I mean, and the Giants defense is the one thing they have right this year. One thing.
Leader in sacks, apparently.
Brother,
they could talk about.
They could run you out at quarterback and beat the Giants this week, bud. The Giants aren't good.
No, we're not saying the Giants aren't good. We're saying the defense is solid.
Okay, but if he wins 17-3 and throws for 2 touchdowns, mission accomplished. He won his second preseason
No,
game.
and I see your point. I think your point's valid. I'm just saying we it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, he's back, Pro Bowler, fucking signed him to another fucking max deal. Same time,
Nobody was ever signing him to a max deal.
There's also a lot of bailouts from Pickens in that game.
There are a couple of throws there that that Pickens makes some, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, and I don't know if it was me that said it last week. I think so. Somebody, we touched on it last week. The reason that you made the choice to switch to Fields when you did is because you were playing the Jets and you were playing the Giants. Yeah, if you go into and I think we were even talking about it in the group in the first half of that game on Sunday, is like, how quickly do we pull the plug here? Because it was not a good start to the game. It was a bad start to the game in the Pittsburgh Steelers and Russell Wilson. So it could have very easily continued down that path, and Justin Fields is the locked in starter until there's a point where he would get injured. So you made the switch now. That was the right choice. You have 2 weeks of quote easier football. Nothing is ever easy in the NFL, but easier football to get ready to go into the bye week and prepare for 2 hard games, divisional matchups, and then a pretty tough slate to close out the season. Like I think that was without question, it was the smart choice.
Going into the game on Sunday, the Jets team was ranked second in the league.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
Tool, listen.
Stop looking at stats and watch the game, dude. I mean,
okay, again, I'm just telling.
Okay, it was 15-13 at the half. Mike Tomlin made great second half adjustments. Also, Garrett Wilson had a ball hit him dead in the chest that ended up as an interception that got returned halfway into the damn red zone for them to waltz into the end zone.
Aaron Rodgers' fault then. There you go. Aaron Rodgers' fault then.
Best play of the game by Devontae Adams too, making a tackle on
that.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. All I'm saying is that this Jets team sucks.
Let's also not act like they were.
Shout out to Devontae Adams for losing to the same team in consecutive weeks. Good on Devontae
shit, that's
Adams.
Right.
Ship him off to the New York Giants so he can do it a third time.
That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Emmanuel Acho. Appreciate that point. Not you, Sean, the one that doesn't watch the games.
Yes.
Speaking of bald Emmanuel Acho, EJ, what did you learn this past week?
Fuck you, Jim. Fuck you, Kyle. Again, Kyle, for the second time today. My takeaway this week. To all the fucking clowns out there for the last couple of years saying that Lamar Jackson's not a quarterback, go fuck yourself. Seriously, you watched that last night? Go fuck yourself. There has been a narrative for his entire career, but more so even the last couple of years, that Lamar Jackson is just a running back. He's really a running back. Can we end that shit now? Can we please
why are we
put
going
that
to
to
go
bed?
fuck ourselves?
Well, no, he's not talking.
Wait, Mike. Unless you're one of them, I mean, I'm not talking to you unless you claiming
no.
are one of those.
I know.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm asking. You're sitting here, and I'll give
because
there
are people. Okay, there are people on my timeline, people who you probably know personally, but I'm just saying that have said Lamar Jackson is a glorified running back.
I mean,
go fuck yourself.
But what did he do to make this be your attitude? Because here's the thing:
doing this?
200, buddy. You're saying that he had this great game passing. Sure, he threw for 5 touchdowns and 281 yards. Kirk Cousins, who we've made fun of for 3 years on this program, threw for 509 yards against the same defense.
Look, I'm just making the point about Lamar. Okay, again, he's a running back.
He had a great game, absolutely.
But he's a running back. That's all I'm saying. He's a running back. He's a running back doing that. So
the best way to let the narrative die is to stop giving it attention. So maybe you should shut the fuck up.
There it is.
That's not the answer though, because there are people who come into this game who still say it now to this day. So I mean, seriously,
stop pointing it out.
Well, again, it's still
into existence.
But this is why we're here to address it. That's all.
I mean,
I
literally
bang bang. Look at that, bang bang.
Okay, but when I asked you to address your reasoning behind it, you sat there and just kept on telling me that he's a glorified running back. I mean, if you would have told me that he only threw 5 incompletions, that he threw 5 touchdowns, had 281 yards against the top 10 defense,
right, but
I would have looked at you and been like, oh, cool. But now you're just telling me that he threw for 300 less yards than Kirk Coupons did against the same defense.
But why are we doing the whole Kirk thing? But first of all,
Because-
no, hold on. No one ever said Kirk Cousins was a good quarterback. I never said that. Certainly, I never said that.
We have a running joke about the guy can't win in
Okay,
prime time.
a
We
joke
called
that-
him Kirk
Right,
Coupons
a
for fucking
joke,
3
a joke that
years.
you guys started. I never started. I was in on that joke.
Okay, hold on.
So again,
Stop.
stop. No, you
Sit there
stop.
and you're
I
wrong,
never.
and you're
I
wrong.
was part of that joke. A part of that joke. In fact, I never called him Kirk Coupons,
Pass, I'm
even
done.
in our text. So
What I think-
Lamar Jackson for MVP. I got it. I got
What
it.
I-
Sign him up.
technically, he's probably the lead MVP right now. To be honest with you.
What I
Go,
think
go Derrick Henry.
trying to say is just the latest in a version of moronic takes that Lamar Demetrius Jackson can't throw the football being disproven once again. They'll probably never go away, as Matt stated earlier, but you guys who can't figure it out, EJ's done with you. F you, I think is what he means.
right.
I just
And
searched our
the funny
group
thing,
chat, EJ, and you've called him coupons twice in the last month.
I've
and a half.
no, I'm not.
It's in the group chat.
Okay,
It's in the
Go find. Okay, then you go find it. If you find that, I said,
dummy.
wait, show it to me. Prove it to me.
all right.
Find it.
Lamar Jackson, 5th in the league in passing yards. He is 9th in the league in yards per game.
Not bad for running back.
2nd in the league in passing touchdowns, tied with Jordan Love behind.
Wait,
Not
not
bad
bad
for
for the
running back.
producer
Not
to
bad.
make the point for the guest better than the guest can. But continue.
I just
Right,
love that-
because I
just
saw
love
him floundering, just going, he's not a running back. He's not a running back. He's not a running back. I thought I'd help him. I thought I'd help him
I
by
appreciate that.
actually looking something
Hey,
up.
look, not bad for running back. Though, not bad.
You also heard something in a press conference that made him realize he's not a running back. Jim.
Exactly.
Check the group chat, EJ.
You also know who's having a great year that they say is an alleged running back, Josh Allen, but we don't hear him talking about not being a good quarterback. We hear him saying
Oh, I
how
did
he
say it.
struggles. He not 9 of 30. 9 of 30 against the Texans, and he's a
Okay,
bad quarterback.
Josh
But he hasn't thrown a
Allen.
pick yet.
I never said anything about. But why? But why is one to be other though? I'm not saying Josh Allen's not good.
Shut up, EJ. This is actually an important point.
You had him ranked 7 before the season started.
Shut up, EJ. Can we stop bringing up the 9 and 30 from the quarterback who was obviously concussed, please? And
Yeah.
Kyle, that was an ankle injury.
oh, shut up.
No, allegedly.
Just
Allegedly it was.
I'm just going off the Bills injury report. All I can do is
Allegedly.
Facts were feelings.
right is just present the facts as they were given. They listed him as having an ankle. Yeah,
And
no,
Aaron Charles Rogers was inoculated, Jim.
that's
Allegedly.
How's that feel, punk?
I mean, here's the deal, and the thing that has helped not only this season, but at points last season before the injury bug bit Baltimore again, is for the first time in his career, Baltimore has put more weapons around him. I know we laughed at Old Bones Jr., Odell Beckham, being a weapon in Baltimore, but sadly, he was still the best option that the man had outside of Mark Andrews, like during his career.
And Zay Flowers. Can we?
Yeah, and Zay now coming into his own. Rashad Bateman performing better. He has 2 up. Mark Andrews found his hands again. Thank God, got the fantasy win on that one. So like your weapons there. Oh, and there's this guy named Derrick Henry who's just like running past everybody and everything. That is certainly helping out the matter because defenses,
he's strong.
right? Like defenses can't just
He's strong.
like you don't just
That
have this
guy.
weird conglomeration of bad running backs next to Lamar Jackson. You have one of the, if not the best in the game right now. So you can't just key on in Lamar. You can't just key in on Zay Flowers. You can't just key in on Mark Andrews. Like there is
And as soon
a
as you do, the Isaiah Likeleys and the Justice Hills of the world are open underneath.
Exactly.
And
Like
he just finds them.
like Baltimore finally has a really good balanced offense full of weapons for this good quarterback. Yes, I used the word quarterback, EJ. You don't have to get mad.
Thank you.
I thought
you
he was
know-
a running back.
Wide receiver,
Oh, that's what it was.
Well, according to fucking, was it Bill Polian?
gadget player.
Well,
I
isn't that
respect,
your
too.
first problem is quoting Bill Polian.
Oh, Bill
but
Polian.
anyway.
Bill Polian was a really good GM. Stop.
Bill Polian has
yeah, no,
fucking
so
amnesia.
like I you know like that. Those are the things that are helping in the matter. Again, you know, I think all of us that are smart enough about the game of football to know the talent of the player were aware of how good Lamar Jackson was. Now, like, there's other people who are kind of waking up to the fact that the man actually is a really good quarterback who has a two-way attack because he can run the ball efficiently as well.
Welcome to the party, pal.
I mean, I say this: Lamar Jackson, good quarterback, fantastic athlete.
Sure.
There, that's an absolutely great way to describe it. Mikey B, what did you learn this weekend?
Well, we've talked a lot about the National Football League, and we've talked about how drunk the NCAA has been.
Ain't that the fucking truth?
Commodore! Woo!
I'm gonna add a 6-pack of beer to that one. We talked and we got into a spirited debate on this show about Big 12 at points, about Iowa State's fairy tale season coming to an end and BYU having a great defense.
Pew, pew, pew.
Both of those teams, with under 11 seconds left, had to find a way to hit walk-off touchdowns to stay undefeated. And I watched the BYU game, and literally I watched a redshirt sophomore making his fourth start for Oklahoma State run the ball so carelessly and efficiently because BYU for some reason didn't want to tackle on a Friday night. I don't know. Weird. Maybe they should only play on Saturdays. Maybe it's a BYU thing. I don't know. They're weird.
They are weird.
So
It's a fair take.
what I learned here is that the Big 12, while you have two teams in the top 13, I have no fucking idea who's going to win this goddamn conference.
That was the case even before it started, gentlemen. I mean, we liked Utah, but once the moon started, well, I should say stopped rising. See what I did there?
Did you say Utes?
It was at
Yeah,
that point,
that was a clever play.
What a fucking letdown.
and it was at that point, ironically, that the conference started acting like it was under a full moon. Like there is a universe where Jim will not know what to do with himself should either BYU falter and Iowa State falter and Colorado sneaks in. Oh, poor Jim Neese. He'll be in big trouble.
I literally was about to say there is a world where our Big 12 title game could be Kansas State versus Colorado.
Oh God.
That'll just prove
God bless
everything
you.
I think about the Big 12 correct.
Well, at least it didn't lose to 5. Am I right?
Let's see Jim's head explode. It'd be nice.
What? I mean, it proves that when you have an easier field that it's easier to win.
Yeah, like playing against a bunch of ACC teams, right?
Exactly. Notre Dame.
You can't say that Florida
Thanks for
State.
explaining the joke.
We suck.
You can't say that Florida State. You play.
We
ACC
suck.
teams.
I already know
You
that
can
already.
sit down, Tallahassee, and think about what you've done, or should I say, not done?
That's why we
By
suck.
the way, dummy, by not saying the college out loud, that's the joke, dumbass. Okay.
Oh well.
He's gonna
That's
red
it.
Foreman, Jim.
You're so bad at this, EJ.
No.
Dumbass.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Big 12 has turned out to be a big question mark across the board because the injuries to Utah in key positions. So yeah, it's another situation of a conference that that the field is even, not great, but even, and if teams start canceling each other out, we're going to see results that we didn't expect. Unless the Big 12 pulls what the ACC is doing with Miami and just hitching their wagon to the best one and making sure that one comes out on top every week.
Kind of already starting to do it, right, with Iowa State.
A little bit, maybe. I didn't see much of that one, but
I didn't watch most of that game. I watched 90% of the BYU game, and it didn't feel like anyone was being
If only
overly
somebody-
officiated one way or another.
If only somebody on this panel covered UCF for the black and gold banneret, we could figure all this out.
Who does that?
Some fat ass, apparently.
News to me.
never heard of him. It would be news to you, man. Never heard of him. But yeah, I mean, look, congratulations to Colorado. You're almost bowl eligible. I'm sure you'll get there.
Did that hurt to say?
I was gonna say that felt like it stung.
Fucking
Gross.
say what I'm saying.
It's
Chest,
it's
motherfucker.
gross, but I mean, cool.
Well,
Dion, baby.
hold on. I don't think it's fair to do that exactly. This is a team, Jim, that was getting disrespected so hard in the preseason that 4.5 wins was their over-under. Okay? Just admit it, Vegas. You fucking whiffed. Okay? It's all right. Just like Fox Big Noon Kickoff completely whiffed thinking that UCF would dominate. It's okay. Admit it. You blew it.
It happens.
You know,
We can all take solace in the fact that in the middle of a football season, the University of Indiana is currently ranked higher than the University of Alabama.
That shit is what.
That
For now.
By the way, did you see the breaking news also on Vanderbilt?
No.
They
They're
did.
ranked. Yes, we
They're
know.
ranked.
Oh yeah. If you
Hey,
would have
that's
you would have
Mr.
gotten here on
15
time,
minutes
you
of
would
the
have
show.
known that.
Yeah. if you were
Man, I
on
wish I
time,
would
you
have placed that
slacker.
bet. I'd have been like, "How much you want to bet EJ's going to bring up Vanderbilt?" After
That's
we
what
talk
I'm here
about
for, buddy. So I'm here for,
Hey.
buddy.
it. Happy to see you.
Yes. Deshaun
job.
Jackson, fucking Jersey. Get out of here!
You
I'm
beat
going to
me.
have it back there every time now. Like,
Damn it! It's so triggering though, dude. It's so fucking.
I'll wear my
triggering.
signed one next time.
You-
Yeah, that's
you-
all.
I mean,
Ajax.
it's a good thing we don't have a Giants fan on
Oh,
this.
yeah,
that
Shut
is
up.
a good thing. That is a good thing.
It's good to know.
That'd be really embarrassing if you
Dig
were
out
still
your old
playing.
Plaxico Burris jersey, so
No leg.
you too can shoot.
So does it have like a
Get the
bullet,
leg,
does it
right?
have a bullet hole through it, or
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what he does with his arguments to shoot himself. in the-
Right. That's why it's the perfect jersey for EJ.
I see what
That's
you
kind of mean. Kyle, that's kind of Kyle. That's a low blow. Stop that.
Back
That's
so
a low blow.
good about the feelings, EJ Christian.
There it is. I was waiting for it.
Leave Djax alone.
Okay, Ben Shapiro, calm down.
Hey, I am not that short.
There you go.
Or that Jewish either.
Anyone coming to his defense?
Hey,
on
I
that?
have a 49ers yarmulke. You back off.
Really?
That's true.
I wore it for I was the best man in a Jewish ceremony for a wedding, and they made yarmulkes for all the best men with insignias on them, and I got a 49ers yarmulke. Yes.
Ah,
See, now that's a
Muzzle
wedding
tough,
gift I can
Kyle.
get behind.
That's
yeah, I
cool.
like that.
Well, I
That's
think you
good.
get under them, Matt. I don't
Nah,
think you
it's
get
still
behind.
okay,
You
See,
yeah.
get
you
under.
see, I can say Jewish jokes because I'm actually part Jew.
No.
you can't.
No.
Oh,
no,
and
that
she can make
works.
black jokes too, right?
Maybe your spending habits.
Well, that too.
Yes.
That too. Yes, Mike, you know too well. No.
This may be another topic for another podcast, but part Jewish?
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
didn't think that was possible.
Funny. He doesn't look Jewish.
And there you go.
And
Man,
I love that movie.
the thing I learned this weekend, and I may have already known it, but is this year's version of the SEC is not what we've come to know. I'm not saying they're not the best conference in college football. But the field is a lot different. You know, like when in the last couple of years, and maybe the thing that's helpful about it too is the 12-team playoff. So there's kind of more teams from other places in play. But like in years past, like we were talking about, like how is the committee gonna like strong arm 3 SEC teams into the top 4 spots or something like that, or at least 2 out of the 4. But you know, like this year, you know, we've seen, you know, Alabama life after Nick Saban, little bumpier than they thought. You know, like Tennessee, LSU kind of starting to cancel each other out at times, or like trading losses here. You know, Georgia loses to Alabama but beats Texas. So it's like we know there's good teams in that conference, but like
Vanderbilt is ranked. Woo!
I'm getting
Vanderbilt
drunk.
is ranked.
I'm getting
but,
drunk
like-
as you saying this shit, bro.
How good is the SEC? Like I don't know the answer to that question yet, because Georgia's loss is to I'm going to say it, a average Alabama team, like, or at least defensively they're bad. I don't want to take anything away from their offense, but defensively they're bad. You know, Texas I thought was great. They lose to that Georgia team. You know, like, you know, Bama loses two games that they probably shouldn't have. Ole Miss, the bottom has fallen out of. Missouri's had a loss. Tennessee loses to Arkansas, but if you look at the teams that they've beaten, like the resumes for a lot of the SEC teams aren't that strong comparatively either. So it's like I'm not ready to say they're not the best conference, but they're not by and large. Oh my God, the SEC's unstoppable.
Is it possible the bottom of the SEC though has gotten better at the bottom of the barrel?
No, that's the wrong angle.
No.
Here's what we need to answer, honestly. And here's what I need to hear. How is this different than other SEC years. Okay. There's always been that kind of muddle at the top. All right. And then it eventually cancels itself out, right? Kentucky has a big year and they make it into the Citrus Bowl eventually, but I don't know. Were they fretting for the SEC? And then they eventually later in the year and sputter off. What, Mike?
I'll let you finish then, because I have a take on what you're saying is different from this SEC.
I'm getting there. I'm sure.
But
Give me a chance to land the plane. I promise some things will be addressed. For one, the power vacuum that is Nick Saban retiring matters, obviously. No disrespect to Kalen DeBoer, but we live in a world also where the previous Alabama coach in his first year lost to Louisiana Monroe. Let's always remember that, okay? B, Texas being back and then doing it just in time to enter the SEC, holy shit, okay? But there's always elements of those SEC teams. Will they break the ceiling? And then by the end, it ends up being Alabama and Georgia again, right? Well, there's no Alabama this year, confidently to say that. And we also don't just have a 14 playoff. Sure. I hear where you're going with, gosh, what do we know about the SEC? How are we going to crowbar them in? Meanwhile, we live in a world with fucking Indiana in the top 25 who's beating your mom's state. Why are we asking that question? And don't get me started on this damn opening thing. Every time the guy says ding, motherfucking dong, I hear quack, motherfucking quack, even though Dylan Gabriel is a fraud. Okay. So I think localizing it to the SEC is just another huge bit of hater bias on your part. Can I please get the same energy for the Big Ten as well? Moreover, again, with the SEC, I feel like we've seen this before. And by the end of the year, when we start getting committees coming in, when teams start falling off, as you mentioned, will come. Who ends up playing usually in the title game? Still the same players, typically, right?
Mike, I'll let you get your point in, but like for me, the thing that's different is like in years past, it was like, okay, Alabama and Georgia are almost completely unstoppable. Okay, like these teams are the absolute juggernauts. Nobody can beat them. Like if you manage to, it's purely on the sake of luck, or like, you know, they'll beat each other in the, you know, the first week of the college football playoff, and then, you know, somebody's going to get blown away the next week. Like I personally, I don't see that. I don't see that out of Georgia. I don't see that out of Texas now. Like again,
but you did go into that game. Let's be fair.
What's that?
You did going into that game, right? And
I thought Texas was by and large the best team in college football. Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's Georgia's fault too. I'm sure we'll get into more of that later. But what I'm getting to is it felt that same way last year for the SEC, did it not? And then, whoops, the conference championship game happened, and suddenly Georgia's sixth, right?
Well, Kirby Smart apparently has an Alabama problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was the issue last year, because if Georgia gets in, they're at least getting a national title game.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. We've acknowledged the difference then. And you say an Alabama problem, maybe this year because, you know, that game went the way it did. You say problem, I also say he exposed Alabama for the rest of the nation to go to work, let's be fair, right? You know, but maybe they had a Nick Saban problem, Jim.
Maybe. I don't, after this weekend with what Georgia did to Texas, and what's happened to Georgia by a bad Bama team or a lesser than Bama team, like I don't see the SEC as being that like runaway juggernaut that they have in the past.
And last thing, and Mikey B, I've been very rude in not handing you the ball, but I'll let you go after this. We have two people talking about conferences being WTF right after Matt said, "Hey, they're White Claw sorority girl drunk." Of course, there's going to be nutty conference stuff going on. Hello. Like, how are those things not tied in? What am I missing? Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
When I have three things prepared for what did we learn, and two of them get horked, I have to go to the third one. So that's part of it as well.
Well, shit.
Mikey B.
All right. You want to know what the big difference is in this year's SEC compared to last couple years of SEC teams? Defense. They're not having to play as much defense because they're scoring points at a ridiculous clip in conference games.
That's a point.
This is not your dad's SEC because you do not have guys that are running for 4,500 yards because you have quarterbacks that are throwing for 5,000. It's a different flavor of Alabama because Caleb DeBoer has never been a defensive-minded coach. He was always an offensive-minded coach. Now this Alabama team is doing exactly that, scoring a lot.
I feel bad I bring this up. I'm the one that made the joke about 75 total points in an SEC game being illegal in some states. Yeah, I should have thought of this. Good point, Mike.
So you add a couple of high-powered offenses out of the Big 12, and as bad as Oklahoma has been this year, and that's a whole other conversation for a whole other
not touching it
part of this podcast. They score. They still put points up. They didn't against Texas, but they still score a shit ton of points.
Something, Pac-12, death taxes, blah, blah.
Correct. So I'm looking right now, and in conference games alone, Texas A&M has scored 130 points. They're 4-0. Georgia 149 in 5 games. They're 4-1.
In the conference.
In conference games.
Yeah, because we know Texas A&M, even though I'm a Notre Dame hater, was a difference in a spread that I openly laughed at right next to every Irish fan on this panel. But continue.
South Carolina and Florida both have over 125 points scored, and those teams are 2-2 and 2-3. You're getting bad SEC teams that are putting up points. So the days of Alabama
3 against UCF. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm just saying the days of beating the bottom of the barrel, the day of Alabama versus Auburn being 48-3 is not there anymore. It's now 56-22. Sure. Auburn is still putting points up. And I think we're so ingrained, us being the media, that the SEC is going to be the best defensive conference in football. They're going to just smash people in the face. They're going to play these other conferences, and they're going to beat those teams 35-3, and those offenses aren't going to have a shot at scoring. That's not college football anymore. College football is run and gun. It's putting points up, and it's putting points up in a hurry. And I think that's something that this is like the Big 12 on a bigger scale. This is like we're just putting points up left and right, and it doesn't give you the same vibe of what the SEC is. I'm looking right now. There are 7 teams. Sorry, the top 8 in the record are all in the top 25, and you have Ole Miss at 18, who's 1-2 in the conference. Mm-hmm. The fact that you got 9 teams ranked in the top 25, the top 8 of them in the standings, and then obviously Ole Miss. And Ole Miss has scored the least amount of points, with the exception of Missouri, out of those 9 teams.
Right.
This isn't your dad's SEC anymore.
Well, and first of all, this is a great point you're making. I'm not sure that that's a long-term trend either, though.
Probably not.
So here's what's even scarier. What if these potent offenses remain and these teams develop the defense, and that's the part of the squads that are in the middle of the rebuilding, and then now what we've created is an SEC that's more complete and they're stronger than they've ever been? Then what?
Houston, we have a problem.
No, we have quality football, and you can't handle it.
I mean, depends what part of the country you're from, if you have a problem or not.
Hey, listen.
And to Mike's point.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say to Mike's point. I was gonna kind of make a point about that the difference of the SEC just feels like kind of that middle tier is kind of meshing with the top tier. But when you have teams not playing defense, that's going to happen. When you're just points after points and back and forth, all of a sudden a turnover here or a bad call there can cause these upsets to happen more. You end up with a little more parity because there's no one taking control of the defensive side of the football and making up for any mistakes that they're making.
Greater margin of error. Good point.
Right. So I think you're going to have this scenario unless that defensive shift that Kyle's talking about happens. You're going to see a little bit more of like, well, it does open the door for that second or third best team to maybe be the best this year, because they just got a bounce at the right time or they didn't make as many mistakes. So I think that's an interesting add-on to the sudden change in defensive prowess.
Well, and a point that EJ regularly makes too about the time of year as well, when the weather gets warm.
Is it that Lamar Jackson's a quarterback?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, college-wise, as the year goes on, defenses do get stronger. It's weather. It's defenses also tend to get injured faster. They're starting to come back later in the year after they've had some time, because playing physical, you get hurt. So I think there's an element of the offense that remains sustainable, whereas the defense, you'll see some rotation, and then when they get healthy again, maybe you'll see another trend upward in defense. There's just so much. This year is so strange and so white claw sorority girl drunk that it's really hard to find trends in here. But to Mike's point, the high scoring we're currently seeing in the games we have seen in the earlier part of the year is worth mention. And by the way, as a side note, offenses are starting to click too at this point because college doesn't have preseason.
I will also say, looking at just all of the teams out of conference, like when you put the conference games and the out of conference games together, there's one SEC team, one, that has a negative point differential.
That's crazy.
The SEC is scoring in bunches.
That's nutty. And apparently stopping teams outside of the SEC from doing it. Maybe familiarity is an issue here, guys. Maybe that's what Mikey B reveals with that point is on the table now. Maybe some of these coaches just know each other, or they're getting shocked playing a Kalen DeBoer, who is an offensive guy. They're getting shocked by Josh Heupel, who's an Oregon offense guy, for Christ's sake. That's not something that's supposed to do well in the SEC. Well, we're here now, right?
Well, and I think too, and not just to the SEC, but I think in some of the weird and crazy anomalies that we're seeing in college football this year over the first like 4 to 6 weeks is the transfer portal, like the number of players that are moving and trying to get settled in to a team. And like, yeah, spring practice is cool and fall practice is cool, but you're not really getting a feel for the game until you actually get into the game itself. That it's going to take, 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes to kind of catch up to speed. So you're going to get maybe some of these weird, these weird results that you don't see coming earlier in the season, as we get into October towards November, the norm starts to come out and starts to balance back out. So we'll kind of watch that as these remaining, 6 weeks of the college football season that's in front of us, how that looks compared to the 8 weeks that's behind us. So.
But it's fascinating to observe. Like, I may not necessarily agree with the SEC being air quotes weaker than it's ever been or any of that. It's certainly different. All day, bro.
Yeah.